Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenem Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hello and welcome back. I'm Gwenem. I'm your host of Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale. And today I am so delighted to welcome in Valerie Johns, who is a psychotherapist, an author, and a poet who's just released her latest book, Night Flights, the Poetry of Soul Retrieval, which is the result of a year-long journey taking her dreams into poetry, where she was guided by Samuel Beckett and was led into psyche to retrieve the lost parts of herself. So for anyone who is daunted by dream work or poetry, I'm going to start by first welcoming you here. So welcome, Valerie. I just wanted to start by saying for anyone who is daunted in this realm of poetry or soul retrieval, I found it to be a dream memoir. I don't know if those were the words that you used, but I was like, oh, this just feels like a memoir, like a living, breathing dream state memoir.
Yes, it's got a lot of element of a poetic memoir to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it doesn't shy away from anything really difficult. You bring in some really difficult, traumatic topics, which I'm just going to warn anyone here. It covers rape, death, murder, patriarchy. It doesn't shy away from any of it. So even though it's in dreamland, it feels, for anyone who's ever seen, I'm going to say The Labyrinth, is kind of where I go with it. Do you remember that film? Yeah. No.
I know the myth of The Labyrinth.
Or the myth, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a Pan's Labyrinth. I think I'm thinking of Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey into how this came about.
Okay. Well, when the pandemic began, we all had to learn very quickly how to go inside because we were sheltering, and profound anxiety. I don't know anyone that wasn't incredibly anxious at one level or another. And so I began taking writing workshops and dream tending workshops to occupy that anxious space. And the first book I wrote in a workshop where we were just writing off of prompts every week, just writing off of prompts. And the teacher would always say, you're just writing little pearls. Eventually there will be a necklace. Just trust the process. And so out of that grew a book that I wrote called Ashes in the Milk, which is about recalling pre-verbal trauma that my mother validated was actually exactly what had happened to me when I was 6 weeks old. And in bringing that part of me through the first book, it was like it built a foundation. And then my second book, I went back into a writing workshop and I thought I was going to write a book about growing up in Tokyo in the 60s, which was real and it happened. And I was way out of my depth as a 12-year-old. But Beckett, who's one of my dream figure allies, showed up and said, forget the Tokyo story. You'll get that later. You got plenty of time for that. Bring out your dream journal and make poetry. So I just started pulling a dream a day, just any dream. And I wound up with about 110,000 words. It was a monster of a manuscript. So I handed it off to a developmental editor and just said, I come from a place of Carl Jung. I come from a mythological framework. Help me find the cream, because I'm lost in the weeds. I can't punch my way out of this bag. And she handed me back about 40,000 words with explanations. Now I brought some of the ones that she left out back in and did a lot more editing and rearranging. But the final result was that I was able to excavate my own life in an archetypal way so that people can read it And it's not their dreams, but all of our dreams have similar flavors,
Mhm.
similar tastes. And when people read it, it activates their imagination, their dream world, so that they can then tap into retrieving whatever it is of theirs that ego said, no, 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 we're not going to look at that. That's too scary, because there's nothing in there that's really scary. It's only scary to the ego. The soul longs for and welcomes integration as we develop as adults.
Yeah, which you say over and over again in the book. You say, "I welcome in the nightmares."
Yes.
Right? Why can't I go? Why am I going back in to face the rape or the like where I know I'm going to get murdered? And you go back like, what is my teaching here? What am I here to learn?
Yes, exactly. The reason we get nightmares is not to scare us, but to make us remember in the morning. They
Mm.
come carrying the most snakes carry a medicine, a
Mhm.
profound medicine. If you think of like the Little Prince, right?
Yeah.
And when he wanted to go home, he made a deal with the snake to bite him so that
Mhm.
he could transcend back to his home. Snakes carry medicine back with the ancient Greeks. They wrap around the American Medical Association's emblem, right? That when snakes come in dreams, they come with urgency. They come saying something within you is longing to be known and integrated, loved, cared for, and it's going to scare you enough to make you remember. It's really
Yeah.
harmless. There's nothing wrong with a nightmare.
No, and bringing in the snake makes me think of liberation, right? Because in The Little Prince, and you have it in one of your poems, it's set me free. To have wings again, to leave this body where there is discomfort. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So then tell me, because I'm so curious, and I don't know if you have an answer for this, because Samuel Beckett showed up in your dreams and said, "Okay, I'm going to invite you to do this."
Yeah.
Why do you think it's Samuel Beckett?
Well, I know exactly why it's Beckett, actually. I was in a writer's group with some fabulous poets about 40 years ago, and one of the women was also a painter and a psychoanalyst, and she painted a painting of Beckett that somehow came inside me in a way that Dante met Virgil on the descent into hell.
Mm-hmm.
I was in it. I had a dream that I was standing on the beach. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, standing on the beach in Hermosa near my office. And I'm just watching the waves. And a man and woman walk by me, and the woman leaves, and the man stands there. And we're just looking at the waves, and they're waving, and it's beautiful. And he says, "Lovely evening." And I say, "Yes, it is." And suddenly you hear the sucking sound of tsunami and this
Mm-hmm.
massive wave. And I turn to run and there's a wall of sand behind me now, and there's nowhere to go. And I wake up like, can't breathe, can't breathe. And when I went back into the dream with an active imagination with my dream partner, we invited that man to come back and stand with me on the sand. And I look up, and it's the painting of Beckett from 40 years ago at my friend Eve's table. And he says, "Can I help?" Because in the nightmare, I wouldn't let him help me. In the daymare, when he said, "Can I help?" I said, "Yes, please." And I thought he would give me a boost over the wall. And instead, he turned like Moses and waved his arm at the wave, and it split open, and out came my 6-year-old cowgirl in her little red cowgirl outfit with red boots and a 6-shooter, who
Mm.
got a spanking from my mother
Oh,
that I
wow.
didn't deserve.
Right.
It was the only time she spanked me. I tracked dog poo across her clean living room floor,
Mhm.
unbeknownst to me. And when I got sober 40 years ago, it was my first memory, was my mother spanking me for no reason. So
Mm.
reclaiming her was really the mission of the book. My little tsunami cowgirl, I call her.
Mm.
And when she is no longer in the wave, pushed down in the unconscious, all that energy that had to hold her down is free to be creative, to engage, to live. It's life force energy. that's freed up. It takes a lot of energy to deny these things. It's like holding a basketball underwater.
And we have a lot of those, right? Where I think we separate so many different parts, and you talk about ego death and going there and facing those nightmares as to excavate the 6-year-old and other memories that surface.
Yes.
How do you think, going into the dream helped you? I don't want to say bypass, because I think that's the wrong, but as a journey of using dream work to be able to access those parts in a way that felt digestible.
Mm-hmm. Good question. As you dream, figures will begin to appear, a jaguar, a monkey, a snake, and we make these our allies. Like I had a dream of a white snake. I went on Etsy and found myself a little white snake. It's sitting here next to the turtle. That's another dream figure that they become your allies. And when you go into active imagination, you kind of do a ritual that says, let me bring in my allies, my dream figures. I don't go anywhere without Samuel Beckett. When I was a kid and read Waiting for Godot the first time, it was like, it gave me permission to be the writer that I am, seeing the risks that he took as an author. And so he shows up and it's like a father, a guardian angel figure that is there holding you safely. You don't just take your little sword and charge into the nightmare by yourself. You bring all the allies with you. I had 2 horses who both died early in the pandemic of serious injuries, but my horses are always with me. My 4 dogs who are no longer on this planet, they're always with me. My mother, often with me. And just whoever it is, either in this realm or another realm, dream realm, that can make you feel like they've got your back, that they can hold you safely. The whole thing is to recognize that Psyche, there's nothing dangerous in there, that she's just been holding things within the vastness of our souls until we're ready to become more whole, to welcome wholeness. And the more wholeness we have, the more libidinal or life energy that we have to live. Not just sexual energy like Freud called it, but Jung called it life force energy. Most of us are walking
sexuality. It's the eros that we keep bringing
Yes.
up. Is this comes into everything, and I love that that the dream space ends up being such an accessible space, because for me it's not, right? I have these dreams, and I remember us talking about it. I think it was you who said put this next to your bed, just a big sheet of paper where you can kind of just write it down, because you won't remember in the morning, and if it's too small you won't be able to see it, so just write it out, which is something that I'm dying to do now, because I want to access those dreams. And it's that sense of feeling, and you do it so well, where you can access the state, that quality, the mood, the feeling, where you're like, because our dreams they make so much sense, right? There's a sense of like, I know this, I understand this, I feel this. And then we wake up and we're like, turtle on a toast, what? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Which is interesting to me that and I just want to touch on Beckett before we move on, because to me, Beckett, I love Beckett. And this whole idea around Waiting for Godot, that Beckett shows up to you very much like one of the vagabonds, and that he shows up actively, right? Instead of being the waiting that never comes, which is the idea, they wait and wait and wait for nothing to change. He's actually the catalyst for change.
Exactly. Yeah, nice pickup.
Yeah, which is very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love my plays. I love my playwrights. Yeah.
That he could part the tsunami. I've had tsunami dreams since I was 16 years old. I had one just 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the amazing thing is, at this point in my dream life, sometimes I'm breathing underwater. In the wave, there's no horror. And I can see other people breathing underwater around me.
That's interesting, because I've had the experience of what I call breathing underwater when I was young. I had those experience of feeling in day life, like in daydreaming of breathing underwater, and then later on thinking, well, am I crazy, or did that happen? Or that sense of which someone had explained to me once, it's almost like leaving your body for a while, that you have that capacity.
Yes.
So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of those dreams, like the tsunami dreams. I had one a while back, and I still remember standing in the water of, like, it's the apocalypse. So because you talk about the apocalypse, I'm like, no, I don't want to be in the apocalypse.
Well, I don't remember if this dream is in the book or not, but I had a dream I was sitting in an AA meeting on the beach, and somebody raised their hand and said, I'm so sick of Valerie and her apocalypse.
Right, yes.
Apocalypse this, apocalypse that, end of the world. Is anybody else sick of her apocalypse? And everybody raised their hands. And I'm sitting there going, I have to bring the apocalypse forward. It's pushing its way. It wants to be born. But we're living in apocalyptic times. They're calling this the next extinction. That we're living in a time of extinction, and to not call it forward is to tamp down life force, to tap down creativity. People are called to be creative at a time like this. We need to think creatively.
Well, and I think the fear of extinction, and I'd love you to talk a little bit about what ego death is, what the experience of ego death is, because it's terrifying. And yet, there's the flip side.
Yeah. Well, when people talk about ego death and talking about smashing the ego, it's actually, we don't want to get rid of it. We just don't want it driving the car anymore. The soul can grow into the place where the ego exists and let the ego ride shotgun, where it's good for getting you out of bed in the morning, it's good for paying bills, it's good for making grocery lists, and it can be very handy when it comes to relationships. But the soul or psyche has to be holding all of us safely in a way that ego has defenses. It says, I don't want to feel this, I'm going to go binge on ice cream. I don't want to feel this, I'll take drugs and alcohol. I don't want to feel this, I'll doom scroll till 3 a.m. on Instagram, right? Rather than recognizing when ego is in charge, it thinks it's a freedom fighter. It thinks it's protecting us and defending us against the vast unknown. Back many years ago, there was a poet named Robert Bly, and he wrote an essay on the shadow that I heard somebody who'd been in a workshop with Bly telling the story, and it was one of the things that allowed me to do this work. Bly said, when we're born, we're like a globe of light. And as soon as we get in trouble when we're 2 for doing something, like we say no, and mom says, you can't say no to me, right? A part of our light is cracked off and stuffed in a bag. And then we go to school and some kid is mean to us, or we get in trouble for standing by the window when we should be sitting in the reading group, or whatever it is, we get in trouble and bang, we're shamed. The shames get so by the time we get to adulthood, there's this much light left and this massive shadow. And now everybody's doing shadow work and making it sound like it's so simple and easy. But it's actually terrifying.
It's terrifying and painful.
Yes, to the ego.
Yes.
The ego, Freud was right when he said the pleasure principle is that the ego only wants to feel good.
Yes, but the irony is that you can't feel good when you don't have your pieces of light coming together. Because if the shadow's reigning, then it's going to do the same with feeling good, with feeling pleasure, with feeling the joy and the gratitude and heart and all of that.
Exactly.
And so ego death, I think because again, it's used a lot today, and people are doing shadow work. They're like, yes, again, I'm doing all these archetypal work, but going in and coming face to face with, these are my identities, the things that I've now placed on myself. And to let that go one by one is can be awful. I mean, it can be liberating. It's usually liberating on the other side, but to be able to say that I'm not just a mother, I'm not just, I'm not the bank teller or the wife that I've been for 30 years.
Yes.
Right. That's a really painful realization when you're like, I am not these things. So then who and what am I?
Yeah. A globe of light.
A globe of light.
Here's the thing. Here's ego. And here come the feelings, the dreams.
Yeah.
Anything bounce off of there. And what happens this is what I love about being a therapist, is people come to me and I say, we're going to stand here and then you're going to learn to tolerate experiencing pain and note that suffering is grace, that there truly is a threading of the needle where you're transformed. You're this big and the needle is this big, and you're going to go through it for transformation. And on the other side of it, the ego's not dead. It's just sitting in the back seat going, where are we going next? It's a partner, not an enemy.
Yeah, I just want to let that land. It's a partner, not an enemy. Yeah. So for you, when you sit today, because you've done so much work, where do you think your ego deaths are next? Like where are you looking? What corners are you still unearthing? Because you bring such an honesty for anybody who's not read, and I haven't read Ashes and Milk, but I read all of the poems. And sitting with, again, you talk about being naked in one of your dreams with your ex-husband and feeling as though I'm not going to be accepted. He's going to think I look awful. There's such a candidness there. Same thing with talking about your friend around, the shame of not showing up when she was in the hospital for her crisis, and holding that.
Yeah.
And I think part of this work for me is also people knowing that they're not alone in their shames, that like we all carry the parts of ourselves that we wish we would have acted better. We might have shown up better, whatever that means, but don't necessarily have the tools and aren't ready to.
No, but there are wonderful, wonderful tools in the world right now, especially in the podcasting world. There's a podcast called This Jungian Life with 3 Jungian analysts who just bring the therapy into the podcast. And it's a great service to people to get to learn about dreams and dream school. And there's probably 50 dream schools out there right now. So I don't need to open another one. I'm just going to keep writing books. But the way that you dream it forward is allowing psyche to present things. In one night, about maybe a month and a half ago, I had 4 dreams. And I managed to wake and write them all down and have been tending with them ever since. And in the first one, I'm in the car with my mother, and I'm young, and I'm clutching. Remember those old paper maps before GPS? The kind that when you bought it, it never folded up the same way again. And Dad would have it out on the dashboard, and he'd be telling Mom, get off at this exit, and this giant map. And I'm clutching the map to my chest. And I know that we're going to the Redwoods, which is in Northern California. I'm in Southern California. And I just know we're going to the Redwoods. So there's this sense of I'm on a journey that it's not going to be over. Even when we die, I don't think it's over. Okay. But in the same night, I had a dream that something was trying to get in. An angry little dog was trying to get in through a screen window. And I'm closing the glass window really fast because it's trying to bite through the screen. And intending it, asking what part of me is still being rejected. Why can't I go with my mom to the Redwoods? Because something is still waiting to be known. And in the next dream, I'm on a trawler. I'm a fisherman. I'm not me. I'm a fisherman, and I'm watching me as a fisherman with all these other men as fisher people. And the water's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly here comes the wave, and I wake up. right? And there's just this sense of like, there's something brewing that's even bigger, that's even more scary to go through, but the magic is I've got the map. I've got a
Mm.
map that I didn't used to have that says that the way through is to go through this, not away from it. And it's dark. There are parts of each day where I walk around right now hating life. I'm not a hater. I don't think of myself as an angry person. But with what's going on in the world right now, I am angry and I'm scared. To not let that guide me, to try and push all of that anger and fear down rather than using it creatively. So what I'm doing is I took my Carl Jung had a book called The Red Book, where he did beautiful art and lots of deep, scary dreaming.
Mm.
And I had a green book. So mine was called The Green Book. And I put my green book into Claude along with my first two books.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, help me find an outline. I don't want him to write it for me because it all sounds the same. Help me get an outline together to tell the story of those four dreams that I had in one night and weave it into the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I came up with, in collaboration with an intelligence that I did not trust, I came up with a feeling of being able to write a novel, a fiction that might be a little bit more palatable for people to read. Because sometimes I think my book is something that might open people in a way that and that maybe if it were fiction, it might be more palatable.
Well, it's
So,
like the body keeps the score, right? I just, it
right,
was like nobody warns you that when you
right,
read the body keeps the score, how traumatizing it is.
right.
It's filled with unexpected imagery, and you bring that in, which I actually find to be comforting,
Uh-huh.
because it brings to light the things to me that people just don't want to and won't talk about.
Yeah,
And you're talking about having an anger that's residing in, because you do have, I mean, just being with you, you have this angelic um warm nature that's very soft, just seeing. But I think it's unrealistic not to be carrying seeds of deep anger. I think we all have that within ourselves, and that's part of like the what we don't want to face, all of those parts that can do all of the heinous things, the recognition
yeah,
that we're all capable of doing that thing,
yeah,
that we're judging, and standing in a moral compass of like, okay, I've got to, I'm protecting myself from that. But I think it's also, the more we recognize, the parts that we might be afraid that we're insane, or can be psychotic, or can be angry, or can murder someone, or can do a heinous crime, the more we become intimate with those parts. And that's part of, I think, ego death as well, is to be able to say, oh yeah, those parts are part of me as well.
yes.
And how do I befriend them and love me, or like, come into acceptance of all those parts that I've buried.
Yes, exactly. And even, Dick Schwartz has popularized Jungian
Mm.
parts work, if you will, so that we have a template for therapists to kind of use to bring the parts. But even he will say he has not dealt with his hunger. And
Mm.
Ashes in the Milk is about the hungry self.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that 6-week-old baby I was when my mom got sick and my dad spilled cigarette ashes in the only milk in the house and had to drive out and get milk down a long road while I lay on my mother's chest and she couldn't feed me because she had mastitis. And so I got frozen in a hunger storm. And I suspect so did the founder of IFS.
Yeah.
So many of us have been frozen in some kind of hunger storm, or we wouldn't have half the country injecting GLP at the moment.
Yeah, I love that you bring that to the attention, because I can speak to that. For me, I always say I have this hunger in me that is unquenchable. insatiable. And I eat more than most people I know. I mean, I'm not on anything, but I do. And I know it intimately from my own work in an eating, like I had an eating disorder growing up and really worked through a lot of that, but I still feel the the open, like the gaping mouth, especially under stress, especially in moments where there's a lot of testing going on, and looking generationally. And you address this, you're like, oh, this goes back to generations. When you think of what's embedded in our DNA, family members hiding during war, not knowing if and when they're going to eat again, whether they're, and they're starving.
Yes.
And that lives within us. And I just thought, like, I never thought of it quite that way.
Yeah. Yes, intergenerational hunger. Most of us in America, people didn't immigrate here, even back with the Mayflower, because they were happy where they were. They were fleeing from something. We are a nation of people who fled from somewhere else. And that is remembered on our DNA strands. What I have found really healing is there's a Buddhist practice called the Chod, Chod, that a female Lama named Suline Alione wrote a book called Feeding the Demons.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did in this, and I think it's in Night Flights, is I met with my hunger and I imagined it as Jabba the Hutt. Okay, because Jabba is the fattest, ugliest, most fierce. I mean, I believe Jabba could probably eat people with her bare hands and never feel full.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tended Jabba and I said, Jabba, what do you need from me? And she said, to feel safe. Because I think the baby self didn't feel safe in any of us. We're out of the womb where it's like everything is safe, into a cold, bright world. Even if we had a dark room with a warm bath at home kind of birth, it's still a shock. And then people are talking and we don't know what they're saying. And it's coming at us. And so part of us then is stuck in the oral fixation of those first 6 months, or in the second 6 months where we're orally aggressive, where we're biting, because we got teeth now.
Mm-hmm.
But those two Freudian stages are very real. And when I turned myself into a nectar of safety and let Jabba drink and drink, and she drank, and I just kept more nectar, and she turned into a little blue bird.
Mm.
A little blue bird that I had met several months earlier in a dream when I was fixing, I believe it was my husband's overcoat for him to go traveling, and hidden in the lapel of the coat was a little blue bird,
Mm.
the bird of safety somehow. And the little bird said, I only eat what I need because I'm a little bird. And birds are very wise. I've never seen a fat bird. They only eat what they need,
I
right?
was gonna say, I think I've seen a couple seagulls and so on, right? Mine, but and again, I think that's man-made. You don't
Yes,
see animals that are fat and obese or overweight unless they have been really embedded into society.
yeah,
And part of that is when we're looking at ourselves, that sense of needing to constantly feed ourselves, whether, like you said, it's alcohol and drugs, but also the scrolling. It's also the next purpose. It's also the next, it's always the next
yes,
and that's that feeling of safety. Bringing that in is such a massive undertaking, but that's what we need. Yeah, even in curing. I remember hearing a story years ago around a girl who was anorexic and her mother standing by her. And I don't know if it was a book now or what it was, but it was essentially the story that she ended up healing because her mother came in not to force any change, not to force anything, but just to be with. And I think that safety that showed up over and over again. Same thing with a friend acquaintance of mine whose son was addicted to heroin, and every week regularly would change his clothes, would come to bring in groceries, and that recurring theme of safety and non-judgment of, you're not going to get punished, I'm still here, and bringing that though within, because not all of us have that person that can just keep doing and feeding that piece.
Yes. And even the best mother can't do it perfectly. She's not supposed to, and she can't.
Yeah.
And in the pandemic, which I do not think we have recovered from yet,
No.
I think we're basically in a post-pandemic psychosis where we don't know what's real anymore, and we've been fed so many lies that we either are true believers of this or that or the other to manage the anxiety that happened when we didn't know if we were all going to live or die. And millions of orphans were created in that time. And that energy is in the zeitgeist now of we're not safe, and we're still not safe. You know, and the same kind of fascism arose in Europe after the Spanish flu pandemic in the early 1900s, 1917 or whatever it was. So, I mean, we're repeating history again with that massive anxiety of we're not safe collectively as a planet. And instead of creating more safety, it's becoming more dangerous. It's like we have to hit some kind of wild bottom before we can change and accept what's happened to us.
Yeah, that we have been caged, and there was so much loneliness happening as well. I think for those of us that were, I was definitely fortunate because I work with writers groups, and I had an acting community which was really connective, even though it was this and it wasn't so much this. And had family around me, and eventually ended up in California where, you know, we had more space to go outside, and thinking was a little bit more liberal. But it was so interesting to me how people stopped thinking for themselves, right? And I'm not talking about anarchy here. I'm talking about really being able, when we talk about safety, that we're not safe, but safety is the lie anyway. Right. I mean, I'm going to contradict myself and say we are always safe if you're going to talk about, you know, the construct of being a spiritual being, right? A soul that's always in existence. And nothing in the outside is ever truly safe, ever.
Yeah.
And we tell ourselves that lie, that we are safe.
Yes. The only place we're safe is right here, right now. And that's what's real. Now, for somebody living in Gaza or Ukraine or countless countries in Africa at the moment, there is no personal safety. But right now, here and now, and most people who have the luxury to listen to this, at the moment they are safe. And sending those signals of safety to the nervous system is part of our job. That while we acknowledge outside danger, we have to be able to ground ourselves in the present moment, because it's the only one that does truly exist, and not futurize and reclaim the parts from the past so that we can be more truly here in the moment. You know, one of my favorite lines from my first book is trauma can't tell time. Yeah. Like it's like trauma is like, but this could happen any minute. And so we're living in it while we're in the now, rather than going, yes, darling, that happened, but right now you're safe. My motto during the pandemic to tell my lost and departed parts was, it's 2020 and I'm a grown-up now and you're safe. And then it's 2021. I'm still a grown-up and you're still safe. Yeah. Come on, you guys, look at me. It's 2022. I'm here, and you have a home and food and dogs, right? And a husband and a life. But those parts that are bombulating around in the sack of the shadow, they don't know what year it is until we help them and tell them. I worked once with a dissociative disorder where I had to bring in the newspaper and show the parts of her, the date on the newspaper, and those parts of her thought I had generated a fake newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they were stuck in time.
Yeah, the body keeps going back to what it remembers instead of being able to be here now. So it's that constant reminding of this is now, the body is, you know, and bringing the body back into safety.
Exactly. It's fascinating. I read Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut when
Yeah.
I was about 15 years old. And it was a book about trauma. And the first line of it says, Billy Pilgrim has come unstuck in time. And he was truly processing what happened to him as a prisoner of war in a slaughterhouse underneath Dresden while the Allies were firebombing the most beautiful German city as payback for the Holocaust. And to deal with that trauma, he wrote a huge series of books to synthesize, to bring himself into the present moment as best as he could, because Billy was everywhere. And I had to come unstuck in my own time to write the books I've written, to then understand what Kurt had done as sheer intuitive genius back at a time when we didn't understand trauma at all. I was part of the first therapists who truly believed in dissociative disorders when everybody else was talking about false memories and that didn't happen. And yes, it did. And he was one of the precursors, like a Coast Guard cutter, cutting through trauma with fiction. You
Mm.
know, highly recommend. We've all
Yes,
come
I
unstuck in
read it,
time.
but it's so long ago, and yeah, so I'm going to revisit that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which brings me into your dream time.
Mhm.
Does exactly that because it brings, there is no time, and you talk about that, right? There is no time in dream time. It's all here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Non-linear.
Non-linear. So if you were
Non-linear.
going to tell people and talk to people a little bit around what how to go into the dream, how to start journaling, how to start accessing those parts.
Mhm. Sure. First of all, I recommend getting a large sketchbook or keeping your
Mhm.
phone by the bed with the notes part so that the moment it pops open, it's on notes and you just start typing and it won't make any sense in the morning, but you'll be able to pull enough words or use a Sharpie with a large sketch pad and just write down like red dress medicine.
Mhm.
And you pull that out in the morning and then you remember the dream of the dress dancing. And then you go to a sketch pad or a painting box and you bring out the red paint and you paint the red dress, and then you share it with somebody who says, I had a dream about the red dress. And you begin to find people who will speak dream with you.
Mhm.
When I was in my first dream class with the man who founded the Pacifica Graduate Institute, Steve Eisenstadt, I took 6 other women who I worked dreams with in the cohort and we formed a dream circle. We actually just met this morning. We're in Italy, UK, Canada, and America, and Cape Town, South Africa. And we tend one another's dreams on a regular basis. So what we've done is we've found people we can share the language with of amplifying images in the dreams, animating the visions in the dreams, and bringing them into the present moment in a living way that's supportive. You don't have to do it alone. Find at least a dream partner who knows your history. After dream after dream after dream, it becomes like a therapeutic alliance that doesn't have to be with licensed therapists. Anybody can tend dreams. If you get to some really gnarly stuff, you probably need professional help, but it's not necessarily needed. I mean, we had shamans long before we had therapists, right? Anybody who can sit and hold the space for the dream without telling you what it means, okay? Without
Yeah.
telling you what it means, but holding space and asking questions. What part of the dream stands out? Oh, the map. Well, what is your association to maps? Or what is your association to this? One of my patients has had several dreams about nails, nail
Mhm.
polish, and taking polish off of nails, and she doesn't wear nail polish. But all these different dreams about nails. And so we started just associating, what does the word nails mean? Or hard as nails? She goes, that's not even a term I would use. I said, well, Psyche's using it. So
Mm.
what do we want to receive from it? And then sometimes if you're very daring, you can go, well, if it were my dream, here's what I would think about it.
Mm.
But that's coming from me, not from this is what your dream means. And
Yeah,
that's,
it's becoming really intimate with your imagery and starting to understand what you're associating with a word or with an image.
yes.
What's come up recently is I've got a friend of mine here, and I've got lots of tarot cards. I've never really read tarot, but all of a sudden I don't know. I'm just drawn to the imagery. And so we were working with Kim Kranz's work. And so she's got all of the archetypes and what it is doing, I'm finding now to my dreams, and also just the imagination of what it's waking up is incredible. Yeah. So memories that are showing up, and you brought up false memories, because I have one very distinctive false memory of being a child and saying to another child, be careful, don't cross the street, or you're going to die like your sister. And I remember her mother was very angry with me when I said that, but I remember being so, because there was no sister and there was no, so I had a false memory or some kind of dream that had stayed with me at that age. And it stuck with me all of these years. I kept thinking, like, did this happen? Did this not happen? So excavating, parts that live. There was another interesting experience, and I don't know if you've had this because you're talking about dream partners. I also remember being young and having the same dream with someone at the same time, which was an interesting experience. Have you had that?
Yes. Yeah, when we were in the Jungian course at Antioch, um, the woman who became a dear friend, she and I would have mirroring dreams almost every week during the class. I come in and say, oh my God, I had another rapist dream. And she goes, so did I. And she said, and with mine, he was a stick figure. And I tried to put him in an envelope and seal the envelope. And I went, I didn't think of that one. But it was like we were co-occurring dreams for the whole quarter. You can tap into those things together. It's really permission to get on the yellow brick road to wholeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
To just be on the road to wholeness and see what it presents without rejecting any of it, there's nothing in there. Psyche won't release something to you that you haven't had foundation to build on. That's what I
That
love
you're not
about.
ready for. It's not
Yeah,
gonna, you can't just
yeah,
unlock something if you're not ready for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't encountered anything that I wasn't able to eventually go, oh wow, thanks.
Yeah.
That's really something I couldn't have imagined. Like when I was in the dream school with Steve, he said I had all these dreams of climbing cliffs to get to my office, and he kept saying, "I have this feeling you need to get on your horse and ride into the ocean." And because he's a diver, he loves to swim in the. I don't want to swim in the ocean, and so I got on Bodhi and I rode him into the ocean, and we went all the way to the bottom of the sea. And I found my 19-year-old self sleeping in a kelp bed and remembered that I had had a dream when I was 19 and I almost died, that I had left my body at the bottom of the ocean and swam away from it.
Mm.
And I told the nurses and the doctors, and everybody was really scared for my mental health because I nearly died. And I hadn't collected that part of me until he suggested, just get on your horse and ride down into the ocean. I don't know why I'm suggesting it, but I just had this feeling about you. And I was so skeptical and kind of, like that's contemptible. I don't want to do it. And when I did it, there was nothing scary and something beautiful. And I woke her up and she got on the back of my horse with me and we rode back up to the land.
Mm.
You can't make that stuff up.
No, and that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true soul retrieval. Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you. I'm gonna just transition. I want to ask you these 10 questions.
Oh,
So, yep, we're gonna go there.
cool.
Okay. So what's one truth your body has always known that your mind took years to catch up to? And I know you have a lot there.
Mm. That I've been wounded,
Mm.
that I've been egregiously wounded, and nobody could figure out why I wasn't happy.
Thank you. What is the most intimate moment you've ever had that had nothing to do with sex?
Walking my dogs with my husband on the beach.
Mm. If you could be remembered for one sensation you gave someone, what would it be?
A sensation I gave someone? Shoulder rub.
Nice. If pleasure were a language, what would your first word be?
Sky.
Beautiful. If your erotic life had a title, like a novel or a book, what might you call it?
The Hollywood years.
And what is one thing that you've never said out loud that you wish someone would ask you about?
When am I going to get another horse?
Thank you. What part of your erotic self are you still afraid to bring to the light?
I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it would be loving a woman.
Thank you. What dies in you when you pretend, and what comes alive when you don't?
My heart.
Finish this sentence. When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
Lying on my mother's chest.
Thank you. Last one. If the soul has a scent, what does yours smell like today?
Lemon blossoms.
Very nice. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book. Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I just want to encourage everyone to read her books or book. And I know that you also still work with people. And I just saw, and I can't remember what it's called, but you work with people with dreams. I want to say the something box, the dream box.
That's what we're working on.
That's what we're working on, the dream box.
Yeah, people are making me do that. That's not my idea, but everybody wants me to create something that's like a toolbox, that's a dream box that people can tap into. Go to a page on my website. I haven't built it yet. We just keep talking about it, but that it's a toolkit because we so much magic comes out of a prompt, right? Just a prompt that's pulled out of the air that says, hey, pick one image from that dream and write me a story about that image. And you go, I can't write a story about that image, but when you sit with the image and you listen, one line will come to you. It's like going fishing. And you're just sitting there with the fishing rod and you get a bite and there's the next line. Fishing rod back in. You just sit with the line of whatever it is you've just written and trust that Psyche will provide you with the next line as you go through things and become something.
Well, and then there's this beautiful mastery in the trusting, because I know I've been trying to work with my dreams now for a while, and I truly wake up and forget to write it down. I just, it's like it's there and then it's gone. And I find that really frustrating. And then I hear of people who are doing lucid dreaming and being able to take control of their dreams and being able to change the ending. I actually had a dream when you're talking about, violence. I had a dream about someone coming to attack me. And I knew in my dream he was coming to kill me. Like I knew, right? When you say, oh, this, and I had woken myself out of it and decided I wanted to go back into it. And then eventually I was like, what are you doing to yourself? Why do you need to take yourself back to this terror over and over again? And so I love sitting with you today, because now I get to go back and really work into the space of, oh, what is this terror trying to teach me?
Yes, and what's longing to be integrated?
What's longing to be integrated?
What have we left behind? It just wants to catch up with us.
Yeah.
It just wants to catch up. And when we turn and welcome it, it goes, oh, I've been running after you all these years. thank you. Just turn around and welcome me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's my honor.
Thank you. I'm just going to invite anybody who wants to know more about Valerie to go to valeriejohns.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's any final words that you want to share.
You don't have to trust it. You cultivate trust by trying it. When you can't remember a dream, is like when Mara came to stop the Buddha from becoming enlightened, and all he said was, "I see you." And Mara lost all power against him. And when the ego says, "Don't remember that dream," because that's what it does, it's protecting you. And when you say, "Oh, well, thanks for the opportunity to see my ego, I'm going to write it down anyway, because I'm answering the soul's calling, not the ego's calling." And that is a beautiful distinction for anybody to have, with or without a therapist.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for joining me today. And I will see you again next week. Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenem. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio time on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenemcarsley.com.